Pursuing Freedom friends. This is your host, Erin Bradley. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Pursuing Freedom podcast. Oh my goodness gracious, am I excited for today because this is a long-awaited interview. Let me tell you, I have been hunting down Angela Totman for what feels like a very long time to get her on my calendar to share her brilliance with all of you. And you will not be disappointed. So if it's your first time here, welcome aboard, buckle up. You're in for a great show. And for all my longtime listeners, you know I love and appreciate you tuning in. And I am going to bring you so much value today with this amazing human being because Angela is a rock star. She is somebody who mentored me several years back, which led to a friendship that has led to traveling together, going on retreats, spending time masterminding. And she's just an incredible businesswoman and accountability coach. She's a financial educator. She has decades of experience in business leadership, the real estate world, financial literacy systems. And if you know me personally, you know that I'm not the most systems oriented person, and I always am surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me that can help me stay in line. And Angela is one of those people who has many times called me out on my stuff, helped me get back in line, and helped me on my journey to creating the life that I've been living in the last several years. So I have so much gratitude for this woman. And with no further ado, I want to introduce you all again to the wonderful Angela Totman. Thank you so much for being here, Angela.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Erin. And thanks for your persistence and your dedicated huntressness.
I know. Angela's like, I don't think I want to be in the front lines on your show. I'm like, yes, you do. We're doing this because you've been such a life-changing addition to my whole journey. So I've just, like I said, I have so much appreciation for you. And you've been a speaker at my events, you've been a guest, and like you've become a friend. And so what I want to do today is, like always, let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you get to where you are today? What's the journey looked like for you, bringing you to the value that you now deliver to the marketplace?
Oh my gosh, well, that's a long story. So to keep it short, when I was a kid, I thought that I was gonna do one thing. And then, as we evolve as people, we discover that maybe we're meant for a different path. And in college, I realized that the plan I had for myself that I literally had been planning on since I was a kid and told everybody about, that wasn't going to be the plan for me. I had gone down that road. I was unhappy there. And so I had to kind of reinvent myself a little bit. And I was blessed with the opportunity to work at the Rich Dad Company. And, I'm guessing a lot of your listeners are familiar with the Rich Dad brand. So, as a college intern and accounting intern, I started at the Rich Dad Company and I got such an incredible education on entrepreneurship and branding and intellectual property and growing your business through joint ventures. And we were a small team, but we were a global brand, like a global phenomenon. And that was such a great opportunity for me. And that was really how I got started. I thought I was going to be a CPA and I was going to work in the corporate world and be a C-suite exec. And this is how I figured I was going to, be happy and make a bunch of money. And it didn't work out that way. I think I found a better pathway because I learned that I'm entrepreneurial in spirit. I love working with business owners. I have a passion for financial education because I didn't grow up with a lot and I saw a lot of people make mistakes and I knew that I wanted a better life for myself and wanted to help other people create that. So entrepreneurship and real estate and financial education allows me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, so this has led you to dabble in a couple different things. I know you've got your real estate license where you serve clients in the Phoenix metro area, and then you've also got your own business as a coach and a mentor, and then as a partner in a coaching organization. So you wear a lot of hats. And when most recently we crossed paths sharing the stage at Alexa DePaulo's Ripple Effect her Ripple Effect conference in Denver, and you were presenting on the method that you developed called the agency operating system. So can you talk us through what that is? Because I feel like the listeners are going to get a ton of value from this.
Sure. So I am at heart, I'm an accountability coach, but a lot of people don't like the word accountability. So literally for years, I've been looking, what is a way that I can describe what's the benefit you get from accountability, which I think is an incredible form of self-love. I think it's an incredible way of showing other people love too when you don't allow them to settle. Man, are you sharing your love for them? but a lot of people don't like that word. So agency I developed as an alternative, and it's relevant because I'm in the real estate space. But also, if you think about what agency means independence. It means that you are, you have the ability to be in control of the decisions that you make and what you're doing. And so agency is an acronym, which I use a lot of acronyms in my coaching just because it helps me remember. And I think it also adds some additional meaning. And it's a way to really bring the way that you serve other people and the way that you honor yourself into alignment.
Can you talk us through the acronym then?
Sure. So, one of the things that I talked about at Alexa's event, the ripple effect, is that a lot of times when we're looking to grow in our careers and in our profession, we're thinking in terms of how can we be a better guide for other people. I talk about the story brand framework, which I think is an incredible concept. And all of us act in this way professionally as guides to other people. People rely on us, but we do it in our personal lives as well. And when we look at our results, we hope for greater income, we hope for more clients, we hope for, broader reach. And that being the evidence that we're doing a better job professionally. But what ends up happening is that sometimes in our desire to be the best guide for other people, we lose a little bit of who we are and we stop being really authentic and true to ourselves. And I believe that when we are being the best versions of ourselves, we can then be a better guide for other people because we learn to be that guide as an extension of who we are and who we want to be. So the A in agency is alignment between your guide and your hero self, because in the story brand framework, you're the guide, there's a guide and a hero is kind of the way that it works. G is having growth in your finances, in your relationships, in your career, and finding a way to do it all simultaneously. When you have alignment between your hero and your guide self, you are better able to simultaneously grow in those other areas of your life. E is all about energy, having the energy and giving it out of intention, giving it with intention rather than obligation. So many times we say yes to things because we feel like we have to. And a lot of people think in terms of what's the opportunity cost if I say no. I really encourage people to think about, well, what's the opportunity cost if you say yes? What is the opportunity cost for you energetically? What do you no longer have room to say yes for in other areas? And I like to remind people that no is not forever. It is a complete sentence, but it does not have to be forever. No can mean not right now or not yet. So that's all. E is for energy. N is about nourishment, the way that you surround yourself with people that you love, doing the work that you love. You're nourishing your body, your mind, and your soul so that you can show up as the best version of yourself and then be in alignment with how you show up for others. C is all about attracting the type of capital you want in your life. Capital in terms of finances, capital in terms of relationships, and again, the way that you attract other people and other opportunities to you. And then Y is your yield, and that's really going to be the impact that you have in the world by doing all of the other things and operating in alignment, the way that you make an impact for others. And you're a great example of this, Erin. You have a tremendous impact, and the way that you show up is so authentic and so consistent every time I see you and your messaging. And the impact of that, the yield of that, is that you are continuing to grow and get new opportunities, and you are also creating opportunities for other people.
I love that. So I know that you obviously apply these principles to your own life and business as a real estate professional. Have you worked with agents specifically? I know you've worked with a lot of different types of business owners, and have you seen how the agency operating system can apply strategically or tactically to a real estate agent's way of being in life and in business?
I have, and part of the way that I do that is using a tool that really allows me and then the client that I'm working with to understand how they see themselves. Part of the challenge that we have is that we can only reach the capacity or the lid that we believe is possible for ourselves. So we have to have an understanding of what that is. What are the limiting thoughts that we have, or how do we see ourselves? And so I have a tool that I use that really allows me to get clear on how the clients that I work with see themselves. What are the characteristics and the traits that they believe that they operate in? And then from there, we can start to uncover what those belief systems are and where they came from, and then figure out how to build new ones that raise the belief lid.
It's interesting you say that because I've talked about this before on the show, how when people meet me and work with me, they often have to be ready for what I refer to as the inside out approach, right? Because in the real estate space, there's so much strategy out there, and there's no shortage of knowing what to do or trainings you can find around, how I'm supposed to spend my time and what I'm supposed to do. It's all about the action. But the action doesn't really work effectively as a band-aid to a low self-esteem or mindset. So if we don't address the blocks that live within the mind that are really creating the resistance in the execution, the consistency that's going to bring us the yield that we're seeking, then it doesn't matter how many podcasts you listen to or books you read, you're still going to struggle to implement. So as an accountability coach, how do you help people recognize that and then do the deprogramming to reprogram so that you can begin anew? Because I really do believe that our lives, that we talked about it at the retreat last year, is like a butterfly. There's a series of death and rebirth that has to happen, and it's the death of the old identity, the death of the old excuses and beliefs to be able to emerge. Like, how do we get more people to see and access the truth that the potential is so much bigger than what we can sometimes see from the limited mind?
I love that question, and I think that there's a couple parts from it. So number one, you said how can you understand or work with people to see what their limiting beliefs are, what maybe is holding them back? I've heard you say this, Erin, what lens are they looking through or what filter are they operating through? And the first thing is listening to what they say. Obviously, being a good listener is an important part of any relationship, whether it's working with clients, who are buying or selling a home or an investment, or working with a coaching client. Listening to the words that they say, because the words that come out of their mouth are going to be a reflection of what they're saying internally as well. And then reflecting that back. So there are four major components to accountability, and communication is a big part of that. Number one, understanding what your expectations are. All right, so this goes back to what is your belief lid? Your expectations of yourself and the people around you are going to be dictated by where your belief lid is. So if you believe, and Erin, I'll just kind of tell on myself a little bit here. You mentioned in the beginning how you've been chasing me down because I was like, oh, I don't want to be out in front or whatever. So I spent my entire career supporting other people and building their businesses. Like, I love doing that. Like, to me, that's so rewarding. I remember there was a window of time where I was like, oh man, like maybe I'm not meant to be in the entrepreneurial space because I don't really have all these like crazy big visions and I'm not inventing the new best solution for something. But you know what I'm really great at? I'm really great at helping people identify what's getting in their way and identifying gaps so that then we can find the solutions to those gaps. I had to change the way that I was thinking, right? In order for me to step into anything, a podcast or speaking on stage, I had to change the way that I identify how I'm going to bring value to the world. What is the expectation of yourself? Is my expectation that I'm never going to stand on a stage or get on a podcast and share what I have to share? Or is my expectation that that's the best way for me to be able to reach people, right? So changing your expectations. Number two, communicating them. Again, you may not even know what you're communicating. You may not even know the words that are, sometimes we are just in such the habit of saying things, we might not even believe them anymore. Like, I've had this where I've been like, why am I even saying that anymore? I don't even believe that's true, but we're so used to saying it. So you have to have awareness. So clear on expectation. You have to communicate what your expectations are. Tell people. Sometimes we're afraid to, because if we don't succeed, whatever success looks like, then we're going to look bad. That's getting stuck in the weeds of it. The point is that you put it out in the universe, you say it out loud, and it's amazing how the universe will support you once you've put it out there. Measuring. So you have set your expectations, you've communicated, you've got to be willing to measure your results. What does that look like? And I talked about this a little bit at the ripple effect too. Measuring can sometimes be a little bit abstract. Some things are easy to measure. If you bought an investment property and you're selling it, it's easy to measure what your ROI is. What was your cash flow every month? Some numbers are really easy. I had one client that I worked with, and she came to me and she's like, I just feel like I've lost myself. Yeah, I'm a wife and I'm a mom, but I don't know who I am anymore. And we had to really drill down to, what does that mean? How can you measure how much of yourself you are being? And it boiled down to how many things a day did she do that made her happy versus how many times a day did she forego something that made her happy because she was taking care of somebody else. That's a little bit abstract, right? Sometimes you've got to be creative in how you measure and then being willing to adjust. So when you ask me, how do I work with clients? First thing is getting clear, reflecting back, and then creating a process to measure and adjust.
Awesome. You talked about the belief lid, and it's reminding me of something I heard recently on, I don't know where, on a podcast or a training, but it was this really interesting thing that many people have heard, but there's a piece of it I didn't know, which is that if you put fleas into a jar and you put a lid on it, they will get, they're stuck in there, right? And after a while, if you remove the lid, they will not leave the jar because they've learned helplessness. And what's crazy is that when they have babies, those fleas are born into learned helplessness, and they also will not leave, even though they've never been in a jar with a lid on it, even though there is no actual lid. They just have been born into the belief system that they can't, they're not capable.
It's like they're witnessing that. And this is why your environment and the nourishment that I mentioned as part of agency, this is part of it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I tell the story all the time about when my credit card was declined for a $2 cup of coffee, and I asked my dad for advice, and he's like, "Well, do you think you're going to be good at this someday?" And I remember thinking, like, I don't have any evidence to indicate that I will be, right? But I think I could, and we talked about that at the ripple effect too, is like, what do you believe? And sometimes I feel like we have to dissolve what we believe to be true, and we have to start to believe something before we've even seen it. So one of my questions is, when you're working with that belief lid with people, how can human beings believe something they've never witnessed before? How can we change our belief system before we've tasted it?
I think that the first thing that I would do is I would challenge the idea of you've never tasted it or never witnessed it, because in our mind, we think that the proof looks like one thing when it actually looks like something else. So maybe you have never hit a specific finish line before, but there are other things that you have done that is evidence that you are capable of stretching beyond where you are originally comfortable. It is very hard to go from like A to Z in one leap. But what happens is that we expect that to be the journey instead of honoring the fact that going from A to B is a win, and then from B to C is a win, and then from C to D is a win. We dishonor the increment. I like to say progress is progress. And I'm not saying don't have big goals. Like, don't hear me say that, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you set a big goal, part of the process is figuring out how you're going to get there. And should it be uncomfortable? Yes, it should be uncomfortable. Should it stretch you? Yes, it should stretch you. But there should also be a pathway for you to see, even if you've never done it before. Maybe you've seen somebody else do it before, or you're experimenting, but there's reason to believe that there's a good probability that it could work. Most people don't achieve their goals by throwing spaghetti against the wall. Yes, we brainstorm. Yes, we experiment. Yes, we try things. But when you do it with intention, there's success somewhere. You just have
Yeah.
to know to look for it.
One of the things we were talking about on our mastermind call earlier is the idea of, the threat that comes from comparing ourselves to someone that we see who appears to have it all figured out, who seems like they're on chapter 10 and we're on chapter 2. And, you know, I'm curious with your own journey, because what we were acknowledging is that none of us have it all figured out. Like none of us, no one here, not me, not you, not anybody listening. And that's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of life, is recognizing I'm probably never going to figure it all out, because once I figured something out, I'm going to have something new that I'm trying to figure out. So I have some processes that I talk about here on the show for what it looks like to get myself unstuck. But what are some of the things that you do when you catch yourself in those outdated fears or limiting beliefs, or you can just energetically sense that you're holding back on something, right? Because we all do that. We're all guilty of it. So like, are there any processes that work for you to help you move through?
There are. So when I'm feeling stuck, it's usually for me that is sourced by an underlying sense of anxiety over something. I may not even always know what I'm feeling anxious about. I know that most of the time, if I'm feeling anxious, it's because there's a piece of information that I'm missing. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to always have all the answers, but typically I can drill it down to if I keep asking myself, why do I care? Why does that matter? Why is this bothering me? I can get down to what piece of information I'm missing or what thing that I can go seek that maybe will ease that sense of anxiety. Not always. Sometimes you haven't done it before. You just don't know. And we're people. Sometimes we just don't want to look stupid or look bad. But at least if you know that's where you are, you know where you're starting from. The other thing too is that it's almost like a visualization tool. If I'm feeling like super stuck or not sure of what to do, but I know that there's a problem I'm facing, I know what this specific problem is, I will literally sit and I will conjure up what is it going to feel like when I'm on the other side of it. I'll ask like, how good am I going to feel? How proud am I going
Mm.
to feel? And I will, to the best of my ability, create that feeling. And I will think to myself, what does it look like? And I will picture myself doing something on the other side of it. What am I going to be doing? Our brain cannot tell the difference between perception and reality. Our brain doesn't know the difference between if we're in a real situation a lot of the times and an imagined situation. And this can hurt us or we can use it to our benefit. This is why visualization is so powerful because you're literally changing your neural pathways when you are visualizing to the good or the bad. And so that for me is a pretty powerful tool. And then I have this motto that I use all the time, check the facts. So if there's something that I think is going to happen or something I believe has happened, I just like put myself in the debate seat and I say, okay, Angela, let's figure out if it actually went down this way. Or what's the probability this is actually going to happen? Because how many of us have gotten like all worked up over something? We put something off, we delayed a decision, we delayed taking action because we didn't talk to somebody about something. I think this is probably one of the most common things. I don't know, Erin, if you've ever done this, but you avoided a conversation because you just knew how bad it was going to go. And
Yeah.
then you finally mustered the courage to have it, and it was fine.
Yes, totally.
You
100%.
thought it was going to be on a scale of 1 to 10 and 11, and it was like a 0.4.
Yeah. Well, I'm laughing over here, like I'm grinning ear to ear as you're talking about the visualization thing, because I'm telling you, I must look like a crazy person sometimes because sometimes in my morning routine, I close my eyes and I start to really tap into and like visualize and feel into as if it's already done and as if it's better than I could have imagined. And I get really calm and I feel this wave of peace come over my body to replace the anxious, worried, uncertain energy that I was feeling prior. And then usually when I do it for long enough, I find myself laughing out loud. I start giggling out loud, like, oh my God, it's gonna be so amazing. It's gonna be so much better than I could have ever imagined. And then the other piece of it is like look around because there are certainly aspects in my environment that I'm looking at right now that were manifestations of a younger pipe dream. Like, so I mean, just living where I live. I mean, it used to be like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't because here's all the things that are going to go wrong. I'm going to go out of business. All these things are going to go wrong if I move to the ski town. And it's like, or not, or my life got 1,000 times better. And it's like, I can just look around and be like, I'm literally living inside the manifestation of a former dream that was like laden with fear of everything that would go wrong. And then remembering that fear is full of crap. I mean, fear is BS. It's like it's made up. And, I mean, I think it's there to protect us. But so I guess one of my questions for you now is like, you have done so much in your career, in your lifetime. I mean, you've served so many business owners. You've got your own business going, multiple businesses. So what are you most excited about on the horizon? Like what are you tapping into celebrating a year from now, 5 years from now? And what's the thing that brings you to giggles when you think about it being better than you could imagine?
What's the thing I'm most excited about? Really, probably is more on the personal side than the business side, although they're combined. You know, when I first started studying to develop my own methods and my own philosophies on accountability, it was because I had somebody at home that really was debilitated with anxiety. And I wanted to show that person that if he just would look for ways that he could take ownership of how his decisions impacted the way he felt, that he would feel so much more in control. And that would be a stepping stone for him to develop tools and whatnot to overcome his anxiety. Well, it's been a lot of years, and he has recently started sharing his own journey and actually talking about what he has learned about taking ownership and accountability publicly. And he's talked to me about how he wants to share his journey to help other people. And that's a pretty big deal to me because when I first started doing this, it was because I just wanted to create a solution for one person and or for our family. And then the more I did it and the more I learned that there was such a broader application for it, and I could support people that I love in business in addition to people that I love in my family. That was really exciting for me. But to see it come full circle and to see that he heard what I had to say
Yeah. Totally.
and that it made a difference. That's so when you can see, Erin, I'm sure you experience this too. Like when you see the people that you work with, whether it's your kids or your family, but you see them actually like implementing and they're changing their language and you see their thought processes change and you can then see that it's going to be even better for them than they can imagine. Like that's the best thing ever.
Yeah, 100%. And it's why I'm obsessed with this work. Like, and it's even what you said earlier, I was I was absolutely terrified to have the conversations that needed to be had around taking the leap of faith to retire my mortgage license and dedicate myself completely to this work. And I had such a wild story of how bad it was going to go. I mean, I thought I was going to be disowned by these people I care about. And in the end, I got the complete opposite reaction. Like the response to my big news was, good for you. And I'm proud of you. And I love you. And I'm going to support you. And it's like, the fear I had kept me in resistance for so long to have a conversation that I thought was going to be the hardest conversation of my life. And instead, it was one of the greatest lessons learned. Right.
Right.
And yeah, it's incredible to know that as we learn to work with our minds and be a witness to the thoughts that become the stories on belief, that become the beliefs that become the excuses for why we resist the call to whatever we feel is our purpose in life or in business or whatever we feel is the next contribution or the next level. If we're able to do it, we become an example to others that they can too. And then when they actually do and they become the example, then you can't unknow this, right? You can't unknow the possibility of what exists out there for every single human being who's curious enough to explore it. And I also don't think it ever ends, like this is the work, because when we do this work and we drop into those quiet moments and we tap into the vision of what it's going to feel like, assuming it all works out and it's better than we thought, we actually access clarity around how to turn that thought into reality. Like, what is the actual action step? And it's totally different frequency than what it feels like to take action from a place of anxiety and fear and scarcity and uncertainty. So I love how you shared that. And it's been really cool to watch that journey unfold alongside you as a friend to what you've been experiencing, because I can see the light within you and the peace that has come from being a witness to this evolution with your loved one. So I'm so happy for you with that.
Thank you. You know what? I'm blessed that I have been able to do that. I think so many times we feel like we can't do anything about it. And if there's one thing that I have learned through this process, it is that as an accountability coach, my job is to help cultivate a mindset and systems for accountability. I don't hold anybody accountable because it's their power, not mine. I just want to shine a light on their power. I want them to know the power that they have available to them. And so helping people understand and cultivate that accountability, that agency mindset, the agency systems, that is how I do it. That's what makes a difference. Otherwise, I'm just like a naggy friend. Ask them why they're not getting their stuff done.
My gosh, I love that so much. I love how you said my job is to shine a light on their power. It's so well said. Well, Ange, I want to respect your time and I so appreciate knowing you, having you in my corner, having you in my life and all the impact that you've brought. So I'm so glad that we got this on the show so that the listeners could experience and have time with you as well. So if anyone listening wants to get a hold of you, learn about your coaching, or just find you, follow you, where are all the ways they can do so?
So angelatotman.com is my website. And if you go there, you'll get, I have a free download if you want to start cultivating that agency and accountability in your own life. There's a free guide there. I'm on Instagram, AZ Homes with Angela Totman. I'm on Facebook, Angela Totman, LinkedIn, Angela Totman, all things Angela Totman.
I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Angela. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And thank you to your listeners. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today.
And to all my friends out there listening, what did you think? If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to send a DM to myself or Angela, or if you know somebody who needed to hear this story or any of this, please share the episode. And of course, if you are driving, if you're walking, stop what you're doing, pull over, and please leave that 5-star review, because it helps us continue to attract amazing guests like Angela and help this content get found so more people like you, like me, like us can build a life we don't need a vacation from. I love you so much. I appreciate you. We'll see you next time.